I'm Montell Elliott, and I'm with Best Care Prevention Program. I'm the prevention coordinator, and tonight we're going to be talking about Parents' Night Out education. The first session is about getting informed. So, risks and dangers of underage drinking. So, alcohol is a factor in the deaths of over 4,000 underage youth in the United States each year. That means motor vehicle crashes, suicides, violence. There's also unintentional injury, brain impairment, alcohol dependence, risky sexual behavior, academic problems, and alcohol and drug poisoning. So, alcohol and other drugs, just some facts. Among people 12 or older in 2020, 58.7% used tobacco, alcohol, or an illicit drug in the past. Most of all this about getting informed is about making sure you understand why it's so important to talk to your kids about alcohol and drugs. And if you want more information, I also have a drug identification chart available for you. And talking about what is lean, it's one of the big things with kids now, and that's using cough syrup either in alcohol or with Sprite, and you can add sweeteners. So one of the main things is knowing what's going on with your kids. Vaping is at an epidemic level. So it's one of those things that's so easy. Nicotine is one of the things that we don't realize how addictive it is for kids and how it affects the brain. So it's so easy for kids to vape, and for it to be at an epidemic level, we really need to take it seriously. So after this first session, to make sure everyone understands how important it is, the next session we'll start talking about making sure that you're ready to talk to your kids. So, as you probably read, alcohol and other drugs used during the teen years can interfere with normal brain development. So, I don't know if this will show up well on the video, but it shows a 15-year-old male that's a non-drinker and a 15-year-old heavy drinker. Both are doing the same activity, and it shows their brain activity while performing a memory task. The heavy drinker is sober during this task, and the pink areas light up where the brain is reacting, and you can see the difference that the non-drinker has a lot of brain activity going on, and the 15-year-old that is a heavy drinker has a lot less brain activity. So that's part of the reason it's so important to make sure that we're having conversations with our kids. There's also injury and violence related to drug use, and that's one of the leading causes of death for teenagers. So, additional consequences. 47% of children who begin drinking before age 14 develop an alcohol use disorder at some point in their lives. So our brains are still developing up until we're about 25. That's why usually the drinking age is 21. And 9% of youth who do not drink alcohol before they are 21 develop an alcohol use disorder. So again, that's 9% versus 47%. It makes a huge difference to make sure your child understands their expectations. So, there are lots of reasons why a child may begin drinking or using drugs. Stress is so much more than probably as parents when we were kids. When children worry about things like grades, physical appearance, and fitting in, they may try to escape their problems with drinking or using drugs. Peer pressure, from 11 to 18, when youth are most likely to be influenced by their friends and especially social media. So like I mentioned about lean, one of the big things is songs. A lot of songs and the culture really talks about lean, which goes by a whole bunch of other names. So those are one way that teens, younger kids can start understanding drug culture, alcohol culture. The more they see it, alcohol being used, alcohol advertising, the more likely they are to think it's okay to try it. So one of the big times that a child may start drinking is transitions, and that can be transitioning from grade school to middle school to high school to college. But it can also be a transition like a breakup or moving or parents divorcing. Now, we all have transitions in life and they're all difficult. We know those are changes. It's just a good time to be aware that might be hard for your kid in a time to see about, are you experiencing something different? And make sure you have those talks about alcohol and drugs. So, alcohol and drugs trends during COVID. So, especially with home delivery, there was a big spike in alcohol sales, let alone a California investigation into delivery service found that a lot of youth under the age of 21 were actually being delivered alcohol at home. And same goes for marijuana, in case you don't realize that marijuana sales are also just like DoorDash. You can have it delivered right to your home. So marijuana sales rose 46% in 2020 and are expected to reach 37 billion by 2024. And the more, just like alcohol, it becomes part of the culture, the more we get used to having marijuana as legal and people do it all the time, the more kids think it's okay. And again, their brain is developing until they're 25. So making sure that they start later in life instead of earlier is really important. So some statistics. Alcohol use increases with age. So just like we were talking about transitions, you can see at a 12, 13-year-old, and this is throughout the United States. It keeps increasing 14 to 15-year-old, 16 to 17-year-old, 18 to 20-year-old, all those transitions. And you can notice that in the questions, this is alcohol use in the past month, binge drinking, or heavy alcohol use. And especially within the last month really increases. And one of the major myths is that it's a rite of passage. So a lot of experimentation as kids start growing up and thinking they're more towards being an adult or moving out of the home. So new alcohol and drug users in 1 year. So these past year, this is a 2020 study, so it's 2020 information. It was published in 2021. And it shows alcohol is still our leading drug. Though there is a lot of marijuana use and other uses of different drugs, which part of the drug identification chart, it at least lets you know what different things look like, especially there's a lot of information out about fentanyl, and fentanyl can look a lot of different ways. So can other drugs. If you're not aware, marijuana can look very different. There's dabbing, which means that it's kind of like a weird kind of glue. So, and you can also have it in a vape. So making sure that you have enough information to be able to know, geez, this is what's going on today. So, Talk They Hear You is a parent-focused national media campaign. And that is what we're looking at today. And there's a lot of tools to help you, PSAs, websites, fact sheets, and more, to help be able to figure out, this is where my kid's at this stage and how I can help from here. So the goals of Talk They Hear You. This first one is about increasing parents' awareness of the prevalence and risk of underage drinking. So that's what we're doing today, getting informed. Next class, we'll be talking about being prepared. Equip parents with the knowledge and skills and confidence to prevent underage drinking and other drug use. The third class is about increasing parents' actions to prevent underage drinking. So the more knowledge you have, the more power you have, the more you're able to help your kids. What you say and how you say it matters. Although it may seem like it, research shows that young people really do listen to what their parents say. I know a lot of the time, being a parent, when your kids don't really want to hear what you have to say, it can seem like a big frustration. So just knowing that hopefully the more you say it, the more you talk about it, the more your kids will listen. And research also shows lots of little talks keep the lines of communication open. It's better to have all those little talks throughout the years. It's not just one big talk. Treating your children like a partner in the conversation. And, one of the things you can do is get your kids to tell you what they know. Do they know what lean is? Do they know it by another name? Have they ever heard of a kid taking it? Have they heard it in a song? Just being curious, finding out what your child knows. So, this is talking about public service announcements. A lot of them are just showing different conversations. And it's not just about, as a community, it's not just about father, son, mom, daughter, but talking to other parents, having discussion starters as a family. Also, there's making sure that your child knows about choices and, knowing it could be the coach or how to keep your kids safe. So, I don't know if we want to watch this. It's a 60-second video. Do you guys? Okay. Let's see if we can get it to play.
I'll be here to hear what's on your mind.
So, let's talk. So, some homework. Thinking about possible reasons why young people may drink or use other drugs. Think about your own experiences growing up and things you may be concerned about with your own children or their friends and classmates. Consider other issues that may influence your children's decisions about alcohol. So this is really just to get you to think about, why would your child or any child try alcohol or other drugs? Because that way it gets you to problem solve a little bit. So our next session is next week, November 9th at 6 p.m. Hope to see you there.